In March 2000, the Pope made his historic first ever visit to Israel. On this important occasion, he addressed his hosts not in their own language, Hebrew, nor in the Vatican's official language, Latin, nor in his native Polish, but in English.
May peace be God's gift to the land he chose as his own.
English has become the primary language of global communication, the most understood language in the world. So why has English become so important on the world stage? 19th century linguists felt that there was something special and unique about the language itself. In 1851, Jacob Grimm of the Brothers Grimm told the Royal Academy of Berlin that English was the strongest language because it had dropped all its complicated word endings. He wrote, "Of all modern languages, not one has acquired such great strength and vigour as the English, for none of the living languages can be compared with it as to richness, rationality, and close construction." You'd be hard-pressed to find any linguist today who'd follow that line, or even a less triumphalist argument put forward by another foreign scholar, the Dane Otto Jespersen, in 1905. He wrote, "The French language is like the stiff French garden of Louis XIV, while the English language is like an English park, in which you're allowed to walk everywhere without having to fear rigorous regulations." But most linguists today would agree not with the genius of Jacob Grimm, but with the linguistic scholar David Crystal, that the spread of a language has little to do with its intrinsic qualities. Social, political, and economic factors are now seen as the forces behind the spread of languages. There's a saying among linguists that a language is a dialect with an army and a navy. So a language that spreads just has more clout behind it. At the end of the Second World War, British and American troops were stationed as administrators in Europe and the Far East. In Japan, learning English became compulsory. In Germany, knowing English gave people an edge in dealing with officials and regulations after the Reich. And a world impoverished by the war turned its eyes enviously to the American dream.
Now, the dream cars of tomorrow.
Expressing not only the American love of beauty, but also the basic freedom of the American people.
And the language of that dream was English, a language that came to represent the delights of consumption and consumerism, of material advance and its promise of happiness. But perhaps the most desirable consumer product at the end of the 20th century was first developed in England, in Manchester. It made the English language adapt and expand to a whole new vocabulary. In 1948, this was the state of the art of what the boffins were calling the electronic brain, the computing machine, or the electronic numerical integrator and computer. The baby, as this rather large piece of hardware was christened, was the first to store a digital program in its 2048-bit memory. In the years since Baby received its first input of data, the computer and its vocabulary have embraced the microcircuit, the database, the chip and the mouse, the floppy disk and the hard disk. We've progressed from the mainframe to the desktop, the laptop to the handheld, and now even a cell phone like this can download information from the internet, and with an estimated 85% of the world's web pages being written in English, this newest technology has become one of the great conduits taking the English language around the world. With the dollar leading the world economy in the latter part of the 20th century, English became the most significant trading language. Global trade in English is reckoned to be worth over $4,000 billion. That's 3 or 4 times as much as the next richest languages, Japanese and German. Though Chinese has more native speakers than English, trade conducted in Chinese is just 1/10 of the value of trade in English.
Hello. Many design. Good pay now.
Can choose what color do you like. I have a tie-dye and with pattern or plain color.
Hello, you buy?
There's an international rule that the seller speaks the buyer's language. If I want your money, it pays me to learn to talk to you in your language. It's the same on a larger scale, whether selling postcards to sightseers or raw materials to industrialists. English opens the purse strings.